you about the incarnation. I know, big, scary religious topic, right? But the incarnation lies at the heart of the changes I've been through this year. The incarnation is certainly scary, but it really isn't so big. Actually, it's quite small, and therein lies an important shift in my world, the shift from big to little. I must confess that until this year, I never much liked humanity as a whole. Rather, I've much preferred to distinguish myself from the rest of the world. For example, when at 4 years old I told my mother that I didn't feel loved, and she asked me what might make me feel better, I replied, "A blooming plant would be nice." So one of my chief fears in coming to North Carolina was that I wouldn't find anyone here that was as cultured, sophisticated, and intelligent as I was. You see, I was used to a big life. I lived in Connecticut, attended an Ivy League school, kept Parmigiano Reggiano in my refrigerator, and went to an Anglo-Catholic church. Everything was grand and intricate, and I was interested in keeping it that way. Big was me, small was the other, and I certainly had to distinguish myself from the other. So what was I doing moving to North Carolina to live amongst the other for a year? All I knew was that I couldn't not go, so go I did. That journey south has changed everything. It all began during our opening retreat. After dinner on our first night, Susan told us that we would share the Eucharist. Having just come from my big Anglo-Catholic world, I was less than enthusiastic about a pretend Eucharist with grape juice and a kitchen table. There probably wouldn't even be an epiclesis, not to mention a manifold. Something gave me pause, though, and I decided for once not to say anything, to pay attention, and to give this table Eucharist a chance. That pause was all it took. That tiny little something changed my world, connected me, an individual, with the community. As we passed the bread and grape juice, I found myself fighting back tears, not to mention astonishment, to feel God's presence connecting ordinary people like us at an ordinary kitchen table. It was all so small. That moment at that table brought home to me the truth and power of the incarnation. It is the dwelling of God in the small things of this world, including me and you. God manifests God's self in the details of this world, and not primarily in smoky churches. God is in the wrinkles of my grandmother's face and the crack in a housemate's voice as she tells her story. And oddly enough, it is the smallness of the incarnation that has brought me to community. Because if God lived in the small things of this world, then God lived in me and in you. The recognition of that indwelling in each of us, of our shared humanity and our shared divinity, has been the start of compassion. Every aspect of my year with the Johnson Intern Program has watered the seed of compassion that Eucharist sowed in me. Our servant leadership classes and the contemplative spiritual practices they introduced to me have helped me to find God's incarnation in myself. That discovery has been the essential first step in opening myself to the divine image in those dramatically unlike me. Once I began to encounter God in the mirror of my contemplation, I found the need to hoard righteousness began to abate a little. This growing freedom fed and enriched my communal and work lives. Living intentionally with 7 other people means that you make a commitment to each other to approach each new day without assumptions. These 7 people have challenged me daily to do just that. Surprisingly, I've found that it's not the big stuff, like our theological differences, that have made it most difficult to treat my housemates with love. It's been the different temperatures we like to keep the house at, conflict in showering schedules, and the amount of meat we each like to eat. It's the little things. But if the incarnation really means anything, it means that it's these little things that matter. It means that God is in these little things. And growth has been as well. The times I've most been able to accept and love my housemates' differences of habit are the times I've truly met God in the details. My work at Club Nova with adults living with mental illness has driven this growth in compassion in startling ways. Club Nova is unlike any place I've ever worked. To do that job effectively, I quickly learned that I had to build relationships, real human-to-human connections with the people I serve. I found that as I started to get to know our members, they became friends, not clients. And the brokenness I saw in their lives was not so very different in nature from the brokenness that I discovered in contemplative prayer. And so my work at Club Nova undermined all the ideas I'd once had about service and social justice. These big concepts have become little changes: hugs, listening ears, renditions of Shake, 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 Shake the Devil Off, Jackie, Jimmy, Mary, Jessica, Karen, Matthew, and the rest of my Club Nova family are my friends. They give to me as much or more than I give to them. We're searching for healing together then. That shared healing has only been possible because I have begun to learn to see God's face all around me, to realize that we are all tied together and that we all participate in the divine image. I still struggle with compassion. It's not always easy to see God in the small quarrels over grocery lists and thermostats, but I'm better able than I ever have been to see beyond the layers of our skin to the deeper indwelling of God's light below. And those small, sometimes tiny incarnations have added up to one big change in my world. The smallness of God has brought me to community, a sometimes terrifying place to be, but ultimately a place of wholeness. Thank you all for the love and encouragement you've given me this year.